Zhang Ruokan's spiritual power was so strong that he immediately sensed a dangerous aura, and his heart was alert. As long as the spiritual power reaches the 13th level or above, you can perceive danger in advance, and in the dark, you can perceive some good fortune and misfortune that are relatively close. Zhang Ruokan's heart gave birth to a strong uneasiness, the hairs all over his body stood up, and he stood up reflexively, startled Ziqian, who was sitting next to him, and immediately put back the poisonous bee needle on the tip of his finger. Did he notice it? How is that possible? Ziqian's heart beat twice faster, and she didn't dare to make a move easily. Chen Libing saw that Ziqian didn't make a move, his eyes shrank slightly, and a trace of murderous light flashed in his pupils. He hid his fingers in his sleeve, channeled his true qi between his fingers, and quietly flicked out a poisonous bee needle. You must know that Chen Libing is sitting behind Zhang Ruokan, and the distance is very close. Moreover, the poisonous bee needle was as thin as a cow's hair, flying out of his fingertips, and even the eyes of a Xuanji realm martial artist could not see the flight trajectory of the poisonous bee needle. However, to Chen Libing's surprise, Zhang Ruokan actually caught the poisonous bee needle with his backhand. You must know that from beginning to end, Zhang Ruokan didn't turn around, as if he had eyes behind his back, but just turned his arm and stretched out two fingers to accurately clamp the poisonous bee needle. Impossible. Even a martial artist of the great perfection of the Xuanji realm would not be able to detect the poisonous bee needle at such a close distance, let alone catch the poisonous bee needle. Chen Libing's heart was horrified. He didn't know that Zhang Ruokan had a spatial realm, and within a radius of 10 meters, everything could not be hidden from his martial soul's perception. When Zhang Ruokan sensed the danger, he immediately stood up and released the realm. Zhang Ruokan pinched the poisonous bee needle, turned around, stared at Chen Libing with a somewhat cold look, and said, "The poisonous bee needle, no wind and no sound, killing people." Chen Libing knew that his identity was exposed, so he shot again, pinched the hilt of the sword, and with a bang, a sword light flew out of his sleeve and stabbed Zhang Ruokan's heart at lightning speed. Fish intestine sword in the sleeve. Sword, hidden in the sleeve. The body of the sword is as slender as a fish's intestines. Although Chen Libing was only a martial arts cultivator in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, he had assassinated a martial artist in the Xuanji realm who was in the small pole position, and his attainments in the sword path were quite profound. A sword shot, and 13 sword shadows appeared. In an instant, the tip of the sword reached Zhang Ruokan's heart. Nearby, many people exclaimed. Elder Xie, who was sitting on top of the blood feather eagle, burst out with a loud shout. A sword aura flew out of Elder Xie's hand and flew over Chen Libing's body. Chen Libing's mouth let out a muffled sound, his body spasmed, and he fell straight on the back of the blood feather eagle. Lu Chengfeng put his finger on the tip of Chen Libing's nose and said with a solemn expression, "It's dead." Everyone's eyes all looked at Elder Xie. This Elder Xie's cultivation was also too powerful, and with just one sword, he killed a martial artist in the late stage of the Xuanji realm. Moreover, Chen Libing did not have any wounds on his body, which was very weird. Elder Xie withdrew his sword from its scabbard, stared coldly at Chen Libing's corpse, and said, "He is using a poisonous bee needle and a fish intestine sword in his sleeve, and he must be the killer of the Defu Gate." Defuman has always wanted to install a killer and infiltrate the Wuxi School Palace, but he didn't expect to be met by Elder Ben today. It's more than innocent to die. Then, Elder Xie looked at Zhang Ruokan again and asked, "Who are you? Why did the killers of the Defuman want to kill you?" Before Zhang Ruokan could speak, Lu Chengfeng preemptively said, "Uncle Xie, he is the 9th prince of Yunwu County, and he can be called a martial arts wizard." Martial arts wizard. Elder Xie looked at Zhang Ruokan carefully. At the age of 16, he had cultivated to the early stage of the Xuanji realm, and he could indeed be regarded as a martial arts genius. However, he is far from being a martial arts wizard. The martial arts wizard of Yunwu County, Elder Xie had only heard of one, that is, the 7th son of the king of Yunwu County, who was only 12 years old and reached the Xuanji realm. The 9th prince in front of him is too far away from the 7th prince. In Elder Xie's opinion, even Ziqian was more talented than Zhang Ruokan. After glancing at Zhang Ruokan, Elder Xie withdrew his gaze and ordered, "Throw down the corpse of the killer of that one of the Defu gates, and throw down the blood feather eagle." It's really weird. I obviously saw a sword chi slashing across his body, why didn't it leave a scar? A martial artist said in surprise. Lu Chengfeng sneered, "What do you know? Uncle Xie is cultivating the spirit-level low-grade martial art, Broken Heart Sword technique, and he has already cultivated this martial art to the fullest. Murder only cuts off the heart, and does not drip blood after death. You don't believe it? Touch the killer's heart." A warrior went to touch Chen Libing's heart, but found that Chen Libing's heart had been broken in half. Although Ziqian and Chen Libing are both genius killers in the Defu Gate, there is very little contact between the killers. Therefore, the friendship between them is not deep, and after Chen Libing's death, Ziqian was not touched at all, and she seemed very calm. "It's a good thing I didn't make a move just now, otherwise, I would have died." Ziqian glanced at Zhang Ruokan slightly. Until now, she couldn't guess how Zhang Ruokan caught the poisonous bee needle shot by Chen Libing. You must know that only the powerhouses of the Earth Extreme Realm can hear the sound of the poisonous powder needle breaking the wind through the hearing of ordinary martial artists. Only the powerhouses of the Earth Extreme Realm can avoid the poisonous bee needle shot by Chen Libing. Zhang Ruokan naturally couldn't be a powerhouse in the Earth Pole realm. There must be an ulterior secret hidden in his body, and he must not be killed easily until this secret is clarified. Once he fails, he is likely to die like Chen Libing. For Ziqian, the main task is to infiltrate the interior of the Defu Gate. As for the assassination of Zhang Ruokan, if he can succeed, it is naturally the best, and he can get a good reward. If it doesn't work out, it won't make much of a difference. If Ziqian couldn't kill Zhang Ruokan within a month, Defuman would naturally send even more powerful killers to attack. Chen Libing is dead, my identity will be more secure, and it must not be easily exposed. Ziqian said secretly. Chen Libing's body was thrown down the blood feather eagle, and everyone began to discuss the Defu Gate, and many people had taboo looks on their faces. The Gate of the Underworld is in Yunwu County, and even the 9 counties of Lingxi also belong to the killer organization of the Big Mac. He once assassinated the king of a county, and he succeeded. It caused a huge sensation at the time, and since then, the reputation of the Defuman has spread. Few of the targets who were assassinated by the Defuman survived for more than a month. Lu Chengfeng said, "Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, don't worry, as long as you enter the Martial City Academy, even if the killers of the Defu Gate have the means to reach the sky, they will definitely not be able to help you." "I hope so," Zhang Ruokan said with a smile. The killer of the Defu Gate, since he can infiltrate the candidates, he will definitely be able to infiltrate the Wuxi Shui Palace. Zhang Ruokan didn't believe that the Wuxi School Palace was absolutely safe. Just like just now, the killer of the Defuman was sitting behind him, and he didn't know it. If it weren't for the fact that his spiritual power had reached the 30th order or higher, and he had cultivated out of the space realm, he would definitely have become a dead man by now. If you want to ask the killer of the Defu Gate, it will definitely cost a very high price. Is no need to guess that Zhang Ruokan knows that it must be related to the queens. When my cultivation reaches the heavenly extreme, I will definitely go back and settle this old account with her. Zhang Ruokan tightened his 5 fingers, and 2 cold gases appeared in his eyes. Heavenly Demon Ridge is an ancient mountain range, 120,000 miles long, with a vast area and sufficient aura. It is simply like a big dragon, lying horizontally in the north of Yunwu County. Including the Yunwu counties, the 36 counties are all located on the periphery of the Heavenly Demon Ridge, surrounding the Heavenly Demon Ridge in the center like the stars holding the moon. Heavenly Demon Ridge is the territory of brute beasts, and in the vast mountains, there are hundreds of millions of brute beasts living in them. The 36 counties would send a large army to guard the border with the Heavenly Demon Ridge all year round to prevent the brute beasts from escaping from the Heavenly Demon Ridge and slaughtering the poor people of the human race. Some large sects, almost all of which were established on the periphery of the Heavenly Demon Ridge. One is to resist the invasion of the human kingdom by brute beasts, the second is to make it more convenient for the disciples in the training sect. The Wuxi School Palace was also built on the periphery of the heavenly demon ridge. The blood feather eagle carried everyone to the sky above the Wuxi School Palace, and everyone was stunned by the scene below. At a glance, the ground is full of dense ancient buildings, including glazed ancient towers built in deep valleys, attics built on the edge of cliffs, and martial arts training platforms built on the top of mountain peaks. Before entering the Wuxi School Palace, he could already feel a huge momentum coming towards him. Elder Xie stood up from the blood feather eagle's back, took out a token, and said loudly, "This seat is Xie Nanshan, who is guarding the formation. Why don't you quickly open the gate of the formation?" A young man in his 20s, standing on the back of a two-headed vulture, flew up from the ground and said, "Meet Uncle Xie. This year, why are there only so many candidates from Yunwu County? Uncle Satu has brought back more than 600 candidates from the Sifang counties, and several of them are top martial arts geniuses." As he spoke, the young man raised his hand slightly towards the ground, and let out a long whistling from his mouth. In the Wuxi School Palace, the branches on the top of the 7 glazed towers in 7 directions, and 7 pillars of light are rushed up, connecting them into a huge formation. Boom! At the edge of the formation, a void light gate more than 100 meters long was opened. The blood feather eagle carried the 67 candidates of the Yunwu County Kingdom, flew into the void light gate, and flew towards a white stone square established in the mountain col. The blood feather eagle flew into the Wuxi Shui Palace, and the light on the top of the 7 glazed towers immediately disappeared, and with a bang, the void light gate disappeared in an instant. Zhang Ruokan jumped off the back of the blood feather eagle, and saw 4 vigorous and powerful characters engraved on the cliff on the south side of Beishi Square, West Courtyard Martial Arts. Each word, 7 meters long, penetrates deep into the stone wall, and contains a powerful sword intent. It seems to be an extremely strong man, using a sword, carved on the stone wall. The person who carved these 4 words must have cultivated the sword intent to the realm of sword incarnation. Zhang Ruokan's heart secretly said. Zhang Ruokan is now the realm of the sword to go at the high level, and only by breaking through this realm can he achieve the clarity of the sword heart. By no means an easy task to reach the realm of sword heart clarity. Many peerless masters extreme realm were unable to cultivate to the point where the sword heart was clear. In other words, if a heavenly extreme realm martial artist can reach the realm of sword heart clearing, then he is definitely a strong person among the heavenly extreme realm martial artists. This year, Yunwu Zhengguo, there are only so many people who come to take the exam of the Martial City Academy. A discordant voice rang out. A heroic young man walked over, and when he saw Zhang Ruokan, Lu Chenfeng, Ziqian and other young warriors of Yunwu County, his face showed a somewhat sneering smile. A burly young martial artist from Yunwu Zhengguo was very annoyed and said in a deep voice, "What do you mean?" The heroic young man smiled and said, "Quartet County, Shen Mengshi." Shen didn't mean anything else, he just felt that the young martial artists of Yunwu County were not as good as one year after another. "What did you say?" The young warriors of Yunwu County all showed angry expressions and surrounded Shen Mengshi. Shen Mengshi looked very calm, still smiling. Could it be that Shen is wrong? The young warriors of Yunwu County were originally not as good as a year. Last year, there were at least 100 and more people from Yunwu County to take the exam, but this year there are only about 60 people left, not even 1/10 of our Sifang County. Ha ha. The burly young martial artist said coldly, "I dare to insult the young martial artist of our Yunwu County. I want to challenge you and beat you down with my own hands. Yes. If you can catch my 3 moves, I will immediately retract what I just said." Shen Mengshi said with a smile. The burly young martial artist roared, and the true qi in his body flowed rapidly, following the meridians to his arms. An instant, the burly young warrior's arms turned crimson, emitting a faint wave of heat. The burly young warrior rushed out suddenly, clenched his fists with 5 fingers, and punched out, hitting the air with a pop sound. A young martial artist was slightly moved, and said, Zhang Heng reached the early stage of the Xuanji realm 3 years ago, and his true qi is quite strong, and besides, he has cultivated the fire dragon fist to the realm of Shaocheng. Even if he fights with a martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm, he can fight for more than 10 rounds. The name of that burly young warrior is Zhang Heng. You must know that the young martial artists who came to take the exam of the Martial City Academy were all under the age of 30. Therefore, the cultivation of more than 70% of the martial artists is in the early stage of the Xuanji realm. The remaining 3% of the martial artists are almost all monks in the middle of the Xuanji realm. As for the martial artists in the late stage of the Xuanji realm and the small pole of the Xuanji realm, there are very few. Of the 67 young martial artists in the Yunwu realm, there was only one in the late stage of the Xuanji realm and one in the small rank of the Xuanji realm. That young martial artist in the small pole position of the Xuanji realm was naturally Ziqian. Another martial artist in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, who had reached the age of 29, had almost no chance of becoming a student of the Martial City Academy. Because he is too old to reach the extreme realm before the age of 30. If the Outer Palace disciples of the Martial City Academy Palace could not reach the Earth extreme realm before the age of 30, they would no longer be able to continue to stay and cultivate in the Martial City Academy Palace. Shen Mengshi of the Quartet County is also a cultivator in the early stage of the Xuanji realm, but his combat power is actually above Zhang Heng. I saw that with a wave of his arm, a wave of true qi swords slashed out and hit Zhang Heng's chest. Zhang Heng screamed, flew out upside down, and fell heavily to the ground. 3-foot-long bloody wound was slashed out of his chest by the wave of true qi knives, and with just one move, Zhang Heng was seriously injured and would definitely not be able to participate in tomorrow's school palace exam. The masters of the younger generation of Yunwu Zhengguo can't even catch a single move, which is really disappointing. Shen Mengshi said with a smile. Those young martial artists of the Sifang County Kingdom all laughed when they saw that Shen Mengshi had seriously injured a young martial artist of the Yunwu County Kingdom with just one move. Only 3 people from Yunwu Zhengguo were admitted to the Wuxi Academy Palace last year, and I'm afraid there won't be any of them this year. With Shen Mengshi's strength, he should be able to defeat everyone in Yunwu County. According to this development trend, it won't be long before the Yunwu County Kingdom will be annexed by our Sifang County Kingdom. Whoa. Zhang Ruokan walked in front of Zhang Heng and took out a healing pill, the Holy Nidin, and gave it to him. Saint Nidin is a second grade healing pill. The medicinal power is quite powerful, although it is impossible to help Zhang Heng recover the 2 broken meridians, but it can quickly make him recover from his external injuries. As long as the meridians in the body are not completely broken, they can still be slowly connected back. After taking the Saint Nidin, Zhang Heng's face was a little more bloody, and he was very grateful. Thank you, Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince. It's okay, it's just an elixir. Zhang Ruokan smiled faintly and helped Zhang Heng up from the 9th Prince. This year, among the candidates of Yunwu County, there is actually a prince, which is really good. When Shen Mengshi heard Zhang Heng's words, his eyes immediately lit up. His gaze looked at Zhang Ruokan, and said, I have long heard of the great name of the royal family of Yunwu County, the National Treasure Book, Innate Gong. His Royal Highness the 9th Prince cultivated to the Xuanji realm at a young age. He must have cultivated the innate Gong. I don't know if His Royal Highness the 9th Prince can give me some advice. Seeing that Shen Mengshi was about to provoke Zhang Ruokan, Elder Xie, who was standing on the edge of the martial arts field in the west courtyard, frowned slightly, wanting to stop it. After all, Zhang Ruokan is the prince of Yunwu County, and his status is much higher than Zhang Heng's. If he is also seriously injured before the exam, the Wuxi School Palace will definitely be responsible. Elder Satu stopped Elder Xie and said with a smile, young people are learning martial arts among themselves, so why should we interfere? Elder Satu is the guide of the candidates of the Sifang Zhengguo, and he has a good relationship with the Sifang Zhengguo, so he naturally helps the Sifang Zhengguo to speak. The more young warriors from the Sifang County are admitted to the Martial City Academy, the more rewards the receiver will receive from the Martial City Academy. Therefore, every time the Wuxi Academy Palace exams, not only the candidates between the various counties are competing with each other, but also between each introducer. Elder Xie was a little displeased, and said, "He is the prince of Yunwu County. If there is any mistake before the exam, do you think the king of Yunwu County will give up?" Elder Xie, "You're too worried, and nothing can happen. If something happens, how about I?" Elder Situ smiled. Humph. Elder Xie snorted coldly and retreated. Elder Xie didn't want to offend Elder Situ, because Elder Situ's cultivation was one level higher than him. Since Elder Situ had said that something had happened and he was responsible, Elder Xie would naturally give him a face. The young martial artists of Yunwu County are indeed too weak. I'm afraid there are few people who are Shen Mengxi's opponents. Elder Xie glanced at Zhang Ruokan and shook his head gently. Reaching the Xuanji realm at the age of 16, his talent is not low, but unfortunately he is still too young, and he can't compare with Shen Mengxi at all, and he will definitely lose. Since Shen Mengxi knows his identity, he shouldn't be heavy-handed. At most, he will just defeat him and humiliate him, so as to undermine the confidence of the young martial artists of Yunwu County. Elder Xie thought so in his heart, and sighed again. Seeing Shen Mengxi asking Zhang Ruokan for advice, all the young warriors in the Sifang County Kingdom laughed, feeling that Shen Mengxi would definitely win. Prince Huo Xing of the Sifang County Kingdom, standing in the center of the martial arts arena with his hands behind his back, said with a smile, "Shen Mengxi, if you can defeat the 9 princes of the Yunwu County Kingdom within 3 moves, this prince will reward you with a true martial weapon." Why do you need 3 moves? All it takes is 1 move. Shen Mengxi decided to perform well in front of Prince Huo Xing. His eyes stared at Zhang Ruokan again, and said with a smile, "Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you also heard just now that if Shen defeats you within 3 moves, you can get a true martial weapon. Therefore, in the next battle, Shen will go all out, if there is something to offend." Zhang Ruokan interrupted Shen Mengxi's words and said, "Shen Mengxi, I'm afraid you misunderstood. I never said I wanted to fight you." Shen Mengxi was slightly stunned, then reacted again, and smiled secretly in his heart. This 9th prince is able to bend and stretch. Just now he saw my powerful cultivation. He definitely didn't dare to fight me, so he took the initiative to escape. If you want to escape, how can I let you go? Before Shen Mengxi could continue to speak, Zhang Ruokan said again, "It's not the academy exam yet. You injured the martial artist of Yunwu County, and you must compensate for the medical expenses. I won't blackmail you either. You take out 30,000 silver coins and compensate Zhang Hang. I'm not going to pursue this matter. Is a very fair price." Zhang Ruokan neither asked for more nor less. Shen Mengxi was stunned again. This 9 princes is joking, right? Those young martial artists in the Sifang County all laughed out loud, looking at Zhang Ruokan like a fool. This Royal Highness the 9th Prince is also too naive. Lu Chengfeng stood up and scolded, "Shen Mengxi, His Royal Highness the 9th Prince asked you to take out the compensation of 30,000 silver coins, do you take it? If you don't take it out, believe it or not, break your legs." 30,000 silver coins, almost all of Shen Mengxi's wealth, how could they be taken out? Shen Mengxi knew that Lu Chengfeng was once a yellow list martial artist, and he was definitely not his opponent, so he stared at Zhang Ruokan again, let out a sneer, and said, "The Prince of Yunwu County is just a shrunken head or something, and he doesn't even have the courage to fight me. It's really embarrassing for the King of Yunwu County." Zhang Ruokan frowned slightly. Lu Chengfeng showed a hint of a smile and said, "Shen Mengxi, you are too ashamed. Even if you fight me, you will lose. You still want to fight with His Royal Highness the 9th Prince?" Shen Mengxi sneered, "Okay. If His Royal Highness the 9th Prince can win against me, I will immediately hand over 30,000 silver coins to the injured warrior of the Yunwu monarchy and apologize to him. If His Royal Highness the 9th Prince is defeated, how can the strong apologize to the weak? Do you think so?" Shen Mengxi is right. It is impossible for the strong to apologize to the weak. The ninth prince doesn't even have the courage to fight. It's better to go back to the Yunwu County King's palace to feed. Ha ha. All the warriors of the Quartet County followed suit, wanting to force Zhang Ruokan to make a move. If the ninth prince of Yunwu County was beaten into a pig's head by Shen Mengshi, it would definitely be a very interesting thing. Those young martial artists in Yunwu County knew that the 9 princes were the number 1 on the yellow list when they did not break through the Xuanji realm, and their combat power was comparable to that of the martial artists in the middle of the Xuanji realm. Now that the 9th prince has reached the Xuanji realm, his cultivation will definitely go to the next level. How can Shen Mengshi be his opponent? Because it has only been 2 months since Zhang Ruokan became the number 1 on the yellow list, and it has not spread to other counties, so Shen Mengshi naturally does not know Zhang Ruokan's true strength. Those young people in Yunwu County showed a bit of a strange smile on their faces, feeling that Shen Mengshi was not self-sufficient. However, everyone did not break it. Zhang Ruokan stared at Shen Mengshi and said, "Since you want to fight with me, then I promise you. But if you lose, it's not as simple as paying 30,000 silver coins, it's 100,000 silver coins." "Why?" Shen Mengshi rode. Zhang Ruokan said, "You scolded so happily just now, don't you have to give money?" "Humph. Not to mention 100,000 silver coins, what about even 1,000,000 silver coins? You can't win against me." Shen Mengshi's true qi surged in his body, flowing down his arm and towards his palm. His 5 fingers merged, condensed into a palm knife, and slashed towards Zhang Ruokan. Palm Ming knife, human-level high-grade martial arts. Zhang Heng was seriously injured by Shen Mengshi's palm sword. Just when Shen Mengshi's palm knife slashed into Zhang Ruokan's chest, Zhang Ruokan shot at a faster speed, his arm shook, and he slapped out with his backhand and slapped it on Shen Mengshi's face. Smack! A loud slap in the face. Shen Mengshi flew out upside down, his body rotated 360 degrees in midair, and with a bang, he fell to the ground. The smiles on the faces of those young warriors of the Quartet County all froze, and they couldn't believe their eyes. There are even many people who don't see how Shen Mengshi flew out. Zhang Ruokan's speed was too fast. You. Shen Mengshi's hands supported the ground. He raised his head with difficulty, his mouth was full of blood, and the left side of his face was swollen, purple and red, just like a pig's head. Zhang Ruokan's slap just now was quite hard, knocking Shen Mengshi's teeth to the ground, and shattering his jaw and cheekbones. At this moment, Shen Mengshi couldn't even speak clearly, and his mouth was leaking. Lu Chengfeng laughed. "Good fight. Shen Mengshi, this son has already told you, telling you not to be overwhelmed, just your little way, and you still want to fight with His Royal Highness the 9th Prince. Now, if you lose, hand over the 100,000 silver coins, right?" I don't have. At this moment, Shen Mengshi even had the heart to cry, and he only had more than 30,000 silver coins on his body in total. How could he get 100,000 silver coins? Never expected that Zhang Ruokan, who was only 16 years old, would be so hearing Shen Mengshi's words. Lu Chengfeng's face sank, walked over, stepped on Shen Mengshi's palm, and pressed down suddenly, causing Shen Mengshi to let out a scream like a dead pig. Lu Chengfeng said in a threatening tone, "The 4th son of the Shen family of the 7th-rate family can't even take out 100,000 silver coins. You are a fool to me, Lu Chengfeng. Before you fought with His Royal Highness the 9th Prince, but you promised to come down in person, and now you want to repay the debt. Elder Xie, Elder Situ, you heard that before, right?" Elder Situ's face was a little embarrassed. He didn't expect Zhang Ruokan to be so strong, and he actually beat Shen Mengshi to the ground with one move. This Shen Mengshi is too wasteful. Elder Xia's heart was very happy, and he couldn't help but look at Zhang Ruokan a little higher, but his face looked very serious, and said, "Elder Ben can testify about this matter. It is only right to repay debts." Lu Chengfeng's feet were still on Shen Mengshi's palm, and he said with a smile, "I heard that I didn't hear it. It is natural to repay the debt. If you don't take out 100,000 silver coins, believe it or not, Ben Gongzi broke your legs today." Shen Mengshi was really a little scared. He knew that Lu Chengfeng was an evil young man who could do anything, so he hurriedly said, yes. Yes. I have silver coins. Shen Mengshi hurriedly took out a purple brocade package from his arms, trembled his 5 fingers, and handed it to Lu Chengfeng. Lu Chengfeng opened the package, only to see that it contained 30 spirit crystals and hundreds of silver coins. He closed the package and kicked Shen Mengshi's body fiercely, saying, "How can there be 100,000 silver coins? Obviously there are only 30,000 silver coins, you dare to deceive this son? Don't dare. Can't. I only have so many silver coins, which are already all my property." Shen Mengshi kept begging for mercy. Lu Chengfeng handed the purple brocade package to Zhang Ruokan and said, "Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, he only has so many silver coins, what should he do now?" Zhang Ruokan took the purple brocade package and glanced at Shen Mengshi. Understood. Lu Chengfeng seemed to have understood the meaning in Zhang Ruokan's heart, nodded at Zhang Ruokan, and then walked towards Shen Mengshi again, with a hint of evil smile on his face. Understood. What exactly do you understand? I didn't say anything. Zhang Ruokan was a little speechless, and looked at Lu Chengfeng, wondering what he understood. Lu Chengfeng thought that he had guessed Zhang Ruokan's thoughts, walked in front of Shen Mengshi, and directly snatched the true martial weapon level sword on Shen Mengshi's back. The 12 inscriptions in the sword are barely a 4th order true martial weapon, and 10,000 silver coins have been collected. Shen Mengshi screamed and said, "That 4th order true martial weapon level battle sword, I spent 20,000 silver coins. Ah, h. The 2nd order true martial weapon level heart guard is worth 2,000 silver coins." The treasures on Shen Mengshi's body were swept away by Lu Chengfeng, and even his were pulled off and his boots were taken off. All of them add up, and you'll have 20,000 silver coins. If you still owe His Royal Highness the 9th Prince 50,000 silver coins, you should write an IOU first. Lu Chengfeng ripped off the last piece of clothing on Shen Mengshi's body, bit Shen Mengshi's index finger, and forced Shen Mengshi to write a bloody IOU on that piece of clothing. Is that what he realized? Zhang Ruokan's forehead has a black line, which is worthy of being evil, and the means are too extreme. Sigh in his heart, the wicked have their own. Deal with people like Shen Mengshi, only by using extraordinary means can he be subdued. Prince Huo Xing of the Quartet County had a very gloomy face and said, "Enough. 9 princes, you are really good at what you do. Shen Mengshi is a martial artist of my Quartet County. Even if he owes you 100,000 silver coins, he shouldn't be humiliated like this, right?" Zhang Ruokan felt inexplicable. Lu Chengfeng was humiliating Shen Mengshi from beginning to end. It was none of his business, okay. Lu Chengfeng folded the IOU, handed it to Zhang Ruokan, and said in a low voice, "Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you have to be careful. When Prince Huo Xing was in the Yellow Extreme Realm, he was a yellow list martial artist, and now that his cultivation has reached the late stage of the Zan Extreme Realm, and he has a royal treasure on his body, he is a ruthless character who is very difficult to deal with." Zhang Ruokan was naturally not a person who was afraid of things, so he took a step forward and said, "Prince Huo Xing, don't you only allow you quartet commanders to humiliate our warriors of Yunwu monarchy, and don't you allow us to fight back?" Prince Huo Xing smiled coldly and said, "The strong can naturally humiliate the weak." Zhang Ruokan smiled and said, "In that case, it doesn't seem wrong for us to humiliate the warriors of the Quartet counties. What if it makes you proud for a while? Tomorrow's school palace exam, this prince will let you return all the money with interest." This year, the young martial artists of Yunwu County Kingdom can't imagine that one person can be admitted to the Martial City Academy. Prince Huo Xing glanced at the dozens of warriors of the Yunwu County Kingdom opposite, and let out a cold snort from his mouth. A chill flashed in Prince Huo Xing's eyes, and he had already moved to kill Zhang Ruokan. Subsequently, the 2 warriors of the Quartet County helped Shen Mengshi down. Lu Chengfeng looked at the warriors of the Sifang County who had retreated to the distance, and said with some concern, "The situation is not good. Tomorrow's school exam, I'm afraid we're going to be quite dangerous." Zhang Ruokan said, "Murder is allowed in the school palace exam. Lu Chengfeng said. On the bright side, the martial artists who participated in the exam, of course, cannot kill each other. However, every year, the first round of the Academy Palace exam is held in the Heavenly Demon Mountains, and when the time comes, those martial artists of the Sifang County will definitely kill us. Ziqian, who was standing on the side, holding the battle sword, stared at the young warriors of the Quartet County in the distance, and said coldly, if they want to kill us all during the examination of the Academy Palace, why can't we kill them back? Zhang Ruokan glanced sideways slightly and glanced at Ziqian. He knew that Ziqian's cultivation was extremely high and had reached the small pole of the Zan extreme realm, but he didn't expect that as a woman, she would have such a tough side, which was rare. Lu Chengfeng smiled and said, if the purple girl is willing to make a move, she will naturally be able to kill those young warriors of the Quartet County. Ziqian glanced at Lu Chengfeng faintly, and then stared at Zhang Ruokan and said, Ninth Prince, if you join forces with me, you will definitely be able to deal a devastating blow to the young martial artists of the Quartet County. Yunwu Zhengguo has suffered all these years, and it is time for them to return it. Ziqian wanted to assassinate Zhang Ruokan, so she naturally had to get close to Zhang Ruokan first and gain Zhang Ruokan's trust. Only by finding out Zhang Ruokan's secret can she have a chance to kill Zhang Ruokan. Zhang Ruokan showed a thoughtful look. Lu Chengfeng intervened in front of Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian again, and said, Purple girl, don't underestimate those young martial artists in the Sifang realm. According to reliable information, they have at least 3 powerhouses in the small pole position of the Xuanji realm, and more than a dozen martial artists in the late stage of the Xuanji realm. If you really go head-to-head with them, it's tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg. Ziqian used her sword to put Lu Chengfeng aside, looking very cold. Her beautiful eyes are still waiting for Zhang Ruokan. Zhang Ruokan gently touched his chin, stared at Ziqian, and said with a smile, since Z girl has such courage, this prince will naturally accompany her to the end. Tomorrow's school palace exam should also make the quartet pay some price. The 9 counties of Lingxi, in addition to the Yunwu County and the Sifang County, there are 7 other counties. Before dark, the young warriors of the other 7 counties were also taken to the West Courtyard Martial Arts Field, each in their own camp, and they were not next to each other. The other 7 counties, like the Yunwu counties, were all low-grade counties. Some counties only had dozens of young warriors, and some counties had 100 or 200 people. The number of young warriors who participated in the academy examination naturally also showed the national strength of each county. Of the 9 counties in Lingxi, only the Sifang County is a medium-sized county, and the national strength is the strongest. Among the young martial artists who came to participate in the Academy Palace examination, the Quartet County accounted for a small half. Lu Chengwen ducked. Zhang Ruokan looked at the number of young martial artists in the martial arts field of the West Courtyard, and roughly estimated that there were about 1,500 people, all of whom were martial arts masters in the Xuanji realm. Everyone present is a young genius in their own county, and none of them are weak. Zhang Ruokan asked, why are there only the warriors of the 9 counties of Lingxi? Why don't you see the warriors of the 9 counties of Lingnan, the 9 counties of Lingdong, and the 9 counties of Lingbei? Lu Chengfeng said with a smile. The outer palace of Wuxi Chenjuang is divided into 4 courtyards, the south courtyard, the north courtyard, the east courtyard, and the west courtyard, and each courtyard is a separate enrollment. Our young martial artists from the 9 counties of Lingxi can only enter the West Courtyard and become disciples of the outer palace of the West Courtyard. Only when you cultivate to break through to the extreme realm of the earth and become a disciple of the inner palace, can you compete with the students of the inner palace of the other 3 academies. Zhang Ruokan nodded, then didn't ask any more questions, sat cross-legged on the ground, and began to meditate and cultivate. His gaze stared at the 4 sword carvings of West Courtyard Martial Field on the cliff wall in the distance, feeling the sword intent aura emanating from the font, so as to comprehend the realm of sword heart and brightness. Tonight, all the young martial artists from the 9 great counties could only spend the night in the martial arts field of the West Courtyard. Vast majority of martial artists sat cross-legged on the ground, absorbing the aura of earth, striving to adjust their state to the best for tomorrow's school exam. The next day, when the sky was slightly bright, 3 deafening bells rang in the Wuxi School Palace. I saw that on a 7-Zhonghai stone platform in the center of the martial arts field, there were 10 powerful martial artists standing. One of the old men wore a golden robe, and the other 9 were all dressed in silver robes. The 9 silver-robed warriors were the ones who went to the 9 great counties, and all of them were silver-robed elders of the Martial City Academy. Lu Chengfeng said in a low voice, "The internal hierarchy of Wuxi Chenjuang is strict, and people of different levels wear different clothes. Only by becoming an elder of Wuxi Chenjuang can he wear a silver robe. As for the golden-robed elders, in the entire Western Courtyard, only the master of the Western Courtyard can wear a golden robe. The master of the West Courtyard is the golden-robed elder of Wuxi Chenjuang. As for Elder Xie, Elder Situ, and even Lu Chengfeng's father, they were all just silver-robed elders of Wuxi Chenjuang." Zhang Ruokan said, "If we are admitted to the Wuxi Academy Palace, what color robe are we wearing?" "Plain white robe," Lu Chengfeng said with a smile. At this moment, the master of the Western Courtyard was standing on the top of the 7-Zhonghai platform, and the robes on his body exuded a dazzling golden glow, which was like a round of scorching sun, and many martial artists couldn't even open their eyes. Obviously, the golden robe on the master of the Western Courtyard is definitely more than just a piece of clothing. The eyes of the master of the Western Courtyard scanned the audience, and a powerful momentum emanated from his body, and said, "This year, a total of 1,537 young martial artists from the 9 counties of Lingxi participated in the academy examination, and the examination was divided into 2 rounds. The first round was hunting brute beasts, the second round was martial pagoda breakthrough, and finally, the top 120 people with the results became the students of the Western Courtyard Outer Palace of the Martial City Academy. Next, Elder Situ will read out the specific examination rules to everyone." After saying this, the master of the West Courtyard retreated. Lu Chengfeng secretly breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Fortunately, the exam rules are the same as in previous years." Chengfeng had prepared in advance, and he was full of confidence in this school palace. Even if Lu Chengfeng was the son of the silver-robed elder of the martial city Chenjuang, he had to pass the exam before he could enter the Martial City Academy Palace to cultivate. Of course, with his identity, he will definitely be able to know the inside story of many exams in advance and prepare accordingly, which will have a greater chance than other martial artists. Of the 1,537 people, only 120 were received, not even a tenth. With my cultivation, I will definitely not be able to pass the test. A young martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm sighed, having lost confidence in this academy exam. On the stone platform, Elder Situ bowed to the master of the Western Courtyard, and then, he took a step forward, facing the young martial artist below, and said, "The exams of the Martial City Academy Palace have always been fair and just. We are recruiting talented geniuses, so even if our cultivation is a little lower, as long as the talent is strong enough, there is a good chance that we will be able to pass the exam." Elder Situ continued, "Half an hour later, everyone will enter the Heavenly Demon Ridge one by one. What you have entered is only a pre-demarcated area on the periphery of the Heavenly Demon Ridge, and all the brute beasts above the 3rd order in that area have been cleared out in advance. In the first round of the Martial City Academy exam, hunt and kill brute beasts. A martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm, hunting 5 second-order inferior brute beasts, can be regarded as passing the first round of exams. A martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm, hunt 10 second-order inferior brute beasts and pass the first round of exams. A martial artist in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, hunt 20 second-order inferior brute beasts and pass the first round of exams. A martial artist of the small pole position of the Xuanji realm, hunted 40 second-order inferior brute beasts and passed the first round of exams. If there is a martial artist at the extreme rank in the Zan extreme realm, then you must hunt and kill 80 second-order inferior brute beasts in order to pass the first round of exams. 1 second order mid-level brute is equivalent to 5 second order low-level brute beasts. 1 second order high-grade brute is equivalent to 25 second order inferior brute beasts. Elder Satu announced the examination rules above, and the young martial artists below all started talking in low voices. Woman in the early stage of the Zon extreme realm showed a hint of a smile and said, "Easy to only need to hunt 5 second order inferior brute beasts to pass the first round of." The other martial artist sneered and said, "You're thinking too easily. The brute beasts in the Heavenly Demon Ridge live in a harsh environment all year round, not only have to fight with human warriors, but also compete with other brute beasts for food, and their strength is at least twice as powerful as those brute beasts outside." The strength of each second-order inferior brute beast was not much different from that of a martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm, and it was very difficult to hunt one, let alone hunt 5. Zhang Ruokan also nodded, and said solemnly, "There are not only second-order low-grade brute beasts in the Heavenly Demon Ridge, but also second-order medium-level brute beasts and second-order high-grade brute beasts. If you encounter a second-order high-grade brute beast, I'm afraid that any candidate present will definitely die. A second-order high-grade brute beast is comparable to a martial artist of the great perfection of the Xuanji realm. Even if Zhang Ruokan encounters it, it is estimated that there is only a dead end." Everyone's faces suddenly turned very pale. Lu Chengfeng smiled and said, "Don't worry too much, the area demarcated by the Martial City Academy Palace is very vast, unless it is extremely unlucky, otherwise, you will definitely not encounter a second-order high-grade brute beast." A martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm said in frustration, "Even if I encounter a second-order mid-level brute beast, I will definitely die. The enrollment of the Martial City Academy Palace is so cruel, not only to avoid powerful brute beasts, but also to beware of other martial artists, so as not to be plotted." Elder Satu continued to read out the rules. "Before entering the Heavenly Demon Ridge, everyone will be given a unicorn ball. If your life is in danger, as long as you crush the unicorn ball, the rescuers of the Wuxi School Palace will arrive as soon as possible. Of course, once you crush the unicorn ball, it means that you have given up the school exam. The duration of the exam is 3 days, and after 3 days, if you don't hunt enough brute beasts, you will be eliminated. Now, I announce that the school palace exam has officially begun. Each person is given a fist-sized unicorn ball, which is said to contain unicorn smoke, and once the sphere is crushed, the unicorn smoke will rush out of the ball and rise thousands of meters high." At this moment, Elder Xie led the 10 Outer Palace disciples of the Martial City Academy Palace to the front of the 66 young candidates of the Yunwu County Kingdom. Yunwu Zhengguo was originally 68 candidates, Chen Libing was killed, Zhang Heng was seriously injured and sent back to the county, and now there are only 66 people left. Elder Xie said, "The 10 people standing in front of you are the Outer Palace students of the Martial City Academy, as well as your senior brothers and sisters. They will take you to different entrances to the Heavenly Demon Ridge. Now, you can choose to enter the Heavenly Demon Ridge alone to complete the Academy exam, or you can choose a combination of 2 people to enter the Heavenly Demon Ridge together to complete the exam. Whether it is entering the Heavenly Demon Ridge alone, or the combination of 2, there are pros and cons. When 2 people enter the Heavenly Demon Ridge together, when they encounter danger, they can indeed share with each other. However, you also have to watch out for your teammates in case they give you a sword in the back. Therefore, if you don't combine, once you do, you must choose the most trustworthy. However, everyone is from all over the world, and many of them didn't know each other before, so who can trust others? I choose to enter the Heavenly Demon Ridge alone." A martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm said. Obviously, he couldn't trust anyone. Subsequently, those young martial artists in Yunwu County country all made a choice, and most of them chose to enter the Heavenly Demon Ridge alone, and only 22 people chose a 2-person combination. Among them are Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian. Under the leadership of the 10 Outer Palace students, the 66 young martial artists of the Yunwu County Kingdom headed towards the Heavenly Demon Ridge. Prince Huo Xing stared at the people of Yunwu County who had already left, and a sneer came out of his mouth, and said, "Everyone, listen well, after entering the heavenly demon ridge, if you encounter the warriors of Yunwu County, you will be killed. As long as he kills one person, Prince Ben will reward him with a second-grade pill. If he can kill that 9 princes, this prince will reward him with a true martial weapon." Hearing Prince Huo Xing's words, all the warriors of the Sifang County had a sneer on their faces. If you can kill all the warriors in Yunwu County, it is estimated that the king of Yunwu County will be furious, and it is very interesting just to think about it. An hour later, all the young warriors of the 9 counties in Lingxi entered a dangerous mountain range, and although it was only the periphery of the heavenly demon ridge, they could still hear the howl of the brute beasts at any time. 1,537 young warriors were like a handful of sand thrown into the sea, and after a few moments, they all disappeared. You are a cultivator of the Xuanji realm small pole rank, and you must hunt 42nd order inferior brute beasts in order to pass the first round of exams. Aren't you in a hurry? Zhang Ruokan held his hands behind his back, stepped on the fallen leaves, and glanced at Ziqian, who was walking in front. Ziqian's tall figure was tall, holding the ancient sword in both hands, staring at the towering ancient trees around her, and said, "How tiring is it to hunt 40 brute beasts? Wouldn't it be faster to hunt down those young warriors of the Quartet realm and snatch their beast eyes?" Zhang Ruokan stared at Ziqian deeply and said, "You must know that this mountain range covers a very vast area, and all the martial arts branches are in all directions. How easy is it to find the martial artists of the Quartet County?" Ziqian said, "I have my own way." Suddenly, Zixi's ears moved slightly. With a bang, she turned into a purple afterimage, flew out, and passed a distance of more than 30 zhong. Her arm shook, and a sword light flashed from her hand, slamming into the ground. Underground, there was a scream of a brute. A fountain of blood gushed up from the ground. Just as the blood was about to reach her arm, her fingers turned, and she moved her steps, retracting the sword from its scabbard at a swift pace. Out of the sword, stabbing the sword, closing the sword, in one go, without any fancy and without the slightest drag. Zhang Ruokan's eyes narrowed, staring at Ziqian, and secretly said in her heart, she had cultivated her sword intent to the realm of the middle level of the sword with her heart, and it seemed that she was not far from the high level of the sword with her heart. Bang! Zhang Ruokan stepped on the ground with one foot, and called the true qi through the soles of his feet to hit the ground, and with a bang, the earth and rocks cracked, and the corpse of an iron-armored man-eating rat the size of a basin was shaken out of the ground. Iron-clad man-eating rats, second-order inferior brute beasts, their whole body is covered in scales, their teeth are 3 inches long, and they are as sharp as blades. Because it eats a lot of food and can eat one live person at a time, it is called a man-eating rat. Ordinary martial artists in the early stage of the Xuanji realm, if they encounter iron-clad man-eating rats, they are estimated to have not reacted yet, and they are attacked by iron-clad man-eaters from the ground and bite off their legs. A warrior, if both legs are bitten off, is basically a dead end, and it is impossible to escape. Ziqian's sword just pierced the neck artery of the iron-armored man-eater, and it was extremely accurate. The Purple Maiden has such a great sense of hearing, and the iron-clad man-eating rat can't hide her ears from the underground more than 30 feet away. Zhang Ruokan really felt incredible, and was secretly vigilant in his heart. Ziqian's origin seemed to be unusual, and she was definitely not a loose cultivator. Without rigorous training, it is impossible for a martial artist in the small pole position of the Xuanji realm to have such a powerful sense of hearing. Everyone has their own secrets, nothing big of a deal. Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you can even catch a poisonous bee needle, and there must be a secret that no one knows, right? Ziqi asked tentatively without leaving a trace. Zhang Ruokan naturally couldn't tell the secrets of the space realm, so he just smiled faintly and nodded lightly. Ziqian held the sword in her hand, and with a wave of her arm, she gouged out the 2 eyeballs of the iron-armored man-eating mouse. She used a half-foot-long box to put away the 2 eyeballs. You must know that a martial artist of the small pole position of the Xuanji realm must hunt 42nd order inferior brute beasts to pass the exam. It was impossible for the warrior to take all the corpses of the 40 brute beasts away, so he could only gouge out the eyes of the iron-armored man-eating rats to prove that he had hunted the brute beasts. Ziqian also dug out a small piece of walnut-sized spirit meat from the body of the iron-armored man-eating mouse. That piece of spiritual flesh, only 1 or 2 weights, the whole body was snow-white, crystal clear, without the slightest smell of blood, but exuded a faint fragrance. She held the spirit meat, glanced at Zhang Ruokan, and asked, "My cultivation has reached the small pole of the Xuanji realm. Eating 1 or 2 more spirit meat can't help me improve my cultivation, leave it to you." After speaking, she threw the spirit meat in her hand to Zhang Ruokan. The spirit flesh was swallowed, and it was quickly digested completely. Zhang Ruokan felt that his spirit had become very full, his whole body was full of strength, the meridians in his body were completely relaxed, and even the speed of true qi flow was a little faster. Ziqian walked in front and said as she walked, "A martial artist who has just entered the early stage of the Xuanji realm can break through to the middle stage of the Xuanji realm by taking almost 3 caddies of spiritual flesh. You can become the number 1 on the yellow list in the yellow extreme realm, and your martial arts body will definitely far surpass the martial artists of the same realm, and if you want to break through the realm, you will consume more resources. You estimate that you will have to eat 5 caddies of spiritual meat before you can break through to the middle stage of the Xuanji realm." Ziqian thought that Zhang Ruokan had just cultivated to the early stage of the Xuanji realm, but she didn't know that Zhang Ruokan had reached the peak of the early stage of the Xuanji realm. Zhang Ruokan estimated that even with his current realm, he would have to eat at least 10 caddies of spiritual flesh before it was possible to break through to the middle stage of the Xuanji realm. His martial body is even more powerful than Ziqian imagined. Suddenly, Ziqian stopped, squatted down slightly, stretched out 2 slender jade fingers, picked up a broken leaf, put it on the tip of her nose and sniffed it slightly. Her face showed joy, and said, "It is the breath of a warrior from the Quartet County, and he passed by here a quarter of an hour ago." This leaf was trampled to pieces by him. Asked, "Have you learned the secret art?" "I've learned a little," Ziqian said. Zhang Ruokan said again, "How do you know that it is the breath of the martial artist of the Sifang County?" Ziqian said, "Last night, when you were cultivating in the martial arts field, I infiltrated the martial artists of the Sifang County and recorded all the breaths of the 667 people in the Sifang Zhongguo. 667 people, you can distinguish all of them. Even a martial artist in the heavenly extreme realm doesn't have such an ability." Zhang Ruokan said. Ziqian said, "You don't believe it?" Zhang Ruokan said, "Unless you are a descendant of a sage, with the blood of a sage flowing in your body, and you have undergone strict training the day after tomorrow, it is possible to have such a powerful sense of hearing and smell." Ziqian said, "You really got it right. One of my ancestors was once a sage. It's a pity that after the death of the ancestor, the family quickly declined, and now, I am the only one left in the whole family." Zixi said half-truthfully, "I see." Zhang Ruokan said gently nodding. If Ziqian was really a descendant of a sage, it would indeed be possible to cultivate a special physique and possess some strength beyond ordinary people, which would not be surprising. Ziqian and Zhang Ruokan sped up and chased forward, trying to catch up with the warrior of the 4 directions realm. Ziqian is a cultivator of the small pole of the Xuanji realm, and her speed is naturally very fast, reaching 36 meters per second. What she didn't expect was that Zhang Ruokan's speed was not much slower than her, reaching about 34 meters per second, closely following her. It's so powerful. The cultivation in the early stage of the Zan extreme realm is so fast. If he reaches the Xuanji realm small pole level, he will definitely be faster than me. Ziqian's heart secretly said. The speed of an ordinary martial artist in the small pole position of the Xuanji realm is almost 36 meters per second. However, Ziqian was much faster than an ordinary Xuanji realm martial artist, but she had reservations in front of Zhang Ruokan and did not use full speed. Soon, they caught up with the young warrior. That young martial artist was fighting a second-order inferior brute beast. Zhang Ruokan stopped and looked into the distance. Sure enough, he is a martial artist of the Quartet realm. His cultivation should have reached the late stage of the Xuanji realm, and he is definitely a strong man. Zhang Ruokan had some images of that young martial artist, who was one of the young masters among the martial artists of the Sifang County. Ziqian's 5 senses are indeed very powerful, far beyond ordinary people. Zhang Ruokan can only compare with her by using the power of martial spirits and exerting the space realm. The battle ended quickly, and the young warrior of the Sifang County Kingdom cut off the neck of the second-order barbarian beast Silver Dragon Lion with a single sword, and gouged out the 2 eyeballs of the Silver Dragon Lion. The young martial artist of the Sifang realm pinched the 2 eyeballs. His face was full of joy, and he said to himself, I have collected 2 more eyes, and with this Silver Dragon Lion, I have already killed 3 second-order inferior brute beasts. Suddenly, he seemed to be aware of it, and quickly put away the 2 brute beast eyeballs, lifted the 3-grade true martial weapon level battle knife, and said in a deep voice, What person? Why don't you get out of here right away? Zhang Ruokan walked out. The martial artist of the Quartet monarchy, when he saw Zhang Ruokan, had a look of ecstasy on his face, and laughed, the 9th prince of the Yunwu monarchy. Ha ha, it's so good, I didn't expect my luck to be so good. Zhang Ruokan said, You need to be so happy to see me. Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you don't know yet. Prince Huoxing has already offered a price. As long as he kills you and carries your head, he can go to him to exchange for a 5th-order true martial weapon. You now know how valuable your head is, right? You know why I'm excited now, right? The warrior of the Quartet County said with a smile. Zhang Ruokan frowned slightly, and said, Are you so confident that you can kill me? The martial artist of the 4 Directions realm laughed even louder and said, You can defeat Shen Mengshi with 1 move, but I can kill Shen Mengshi with 1 move. You know, I'm a martial artist in the late stage of the Xuanji realm. Zhang Ruokan said, Since this is the case, let's fight. You didn't run away. Since you are so confident, then I will let you know how big the gap is between the early stage of the Zanji realm and the late stage of the Zanji realm. The warrior of the Quartet County injected his true qi into the war knife in his hand, and immediately activated the 5 inscriptions in the battle knife, and a layer of red flames emanated from the blade body. He swung his sword, and a wave of heat poured out of the blade, rolling up the fallen leaves on the ground. Phew! Those fallen leaves actually burned automatically, like a rain of fire suspended in the void. Pieces of flame leaves gathered together, forming a fire dragon, surging towards Zhang Ruokan. Zhang Ruokan put one hand behind his back, and the palm of the other hand condensed a thick true qi, and slapped it out with one palm, creating an invisible wave of qi. The dragon is like a palm, the third palm. Under the influence of the palm force, the fallen leaves on the ground also flew up, swirling in the air. Hundreds of leaves, converging in the shape of a 5-meter-tall elephant, surged towards the opposite side. Bang! 2 powerful forces, colliding together, form a violent hedge. All the leaves, all turned into powder. The warrior of the Quartet County took more than 10 steps back in a row before he could barely stabilize his footing, as if he had been hit in the chest by a sledgehammer, and the blood and qi in his body were tumbling, and he suffered a lot of internal injuries. On the other hand, Zhang Ruokan was still standing in place, looking light, and even the corners of his clothes were not damaged. How is that possible? How could a martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm be so powerful? The warrior of the Sifang County Kingdom clutched his chest and stared at Zhang Ruokan, who was standing opposite in disbelief. Ziqian walked out from behind the martial artist and said, Don't you know that he used to be the number 1 on the yellow list of the Yunwu County Kingdom? Ignorance is also a sin. And the strong. The face of the warrior of the Quartet County changed, and a word appeared in his heart. Escape. He immediately displayed a body martial art, stepped on the ground with the soles of his feet, and his body rushed out, and the speed was as fast as 32 meters per second. However, Zhang Ruokan's speed was faster, and he quickly caught up with him, and with a finger, he struck the third bone on the backbone of the warrior's vest. Bang! Screamed, his whole body went limp, and you abolished my Zongtian vein. The martial artist lay on the ground, his whole body trembling, and he stared at Zhang Ruokan with resentment. A martial artist, if the heavenly vein in the backbone is abolished, then in the future, it is impossible to make any progress in cultivation, and he can be regarded as half a wasted person. Poof! Ziqian swung out with a sword, cutting off the head of the warrior, and red blood gushed out from his neck. Zhang Ruokan stared at Ziqian and said, his Zongtian vein has been abolished, and he is no longer qualified to become a student of the Martial City Academy, so it is impossible to threaten us anymore. Why kill him? Ziqian coldly withdrew her sword and said, he can cultivate to the late stage of the Xuanji realm at a young age, and there must be a lot of power behind him. If he does not die, he will surely take revenge on us. Zhang Ruokan was speechless. To be honest, there's nothing wrong with Zixi doing this. It's just that Zhang Ruokan feels that the other party's crime is not to death, and abolishing his Zongtian vein is already a great punishment for a martial artist. Ziqian found 21 spirit crystals, 500 silver coins, and a box containing the beast's eyes from the body of that warrior. She opened the box, and her pretty face showed joy. 6 beast eyes, equivalent to 3 Secondorder inferior brute beasts. Ziqian immediately put away the box, and then, she glanced at Zhang Ruokan again, and said, you are a prince, you shouldn't be short of money, right? Zhang Ruokan said, there is no shortage. In that case, I'll take away the spirit crystals and silver coins on his body. Ziqian was very polite and took away all the 21 spirit crystals and 500 silver coins. Zhang Ruokan was a little curious and said, are you very short of money? Ziqian said solemnly, without cultivation resources, no matter how talented a martial artist is, he can't become a strong person. If you want to cultivate resources, you naturally need to spend a lot of coins to buy them. Of course, a high-ranking prince like you, who has never lacked cultivation resources since birth, has never realized the importance of coins to cultivation. His sword is yours. Ziqian kicked up the 3-grade true martial weapon level battle knife in the corpse's hand and flew towards Zhang Ruokan. Zhang Ruokan took over the battle, not politely at all, and put the war knife into the space ring. Ziqian's eyes were slightly surprised, staring at the ring on Zhang Ruokan's finger, and said in surprise, space treasures. That's right. Zhang Ruokan didn't hide anything, and said, if you want it, I can give it to you. Zhang Ruokan took off the white ring carved with phoenix patterns, handed it to Ziqian, and said with a smile, to be honest, there are too many patterns in this space ring, and it is more suitable for women to wear it. Zhang Ruokan felt that it didn't matter, it was just a space ring anyway, and it was still a semi-finished product, even if it was sent out, it would not be distressed. Big deal, refine another one in a few days. In Ziqian's opinion, it is completely different, a space treasure, absolutely valuable, very. He gave it to me for nothing. Could it be that this 9 princes is really a bit stupid? Ziqian stared at Zhang Ruokan deeply, but found that Zhang Ruokan had a faint smile on his face, as if he really wanted to give her the space ring. Ziqian glanced at Zhang Ruokan coldly, and did not take the space ring in Zhang Ruokan's hand, and said, don't you know that men can't give women rings at will? After saying this, Ziqian walked to the side of the silver dragon lion and dug out a piece of 3-2 spirit flesh in the silver dragon lion's body. Zhang Ruokan's hand was stretched out in the air, slightly stunned, and then smiled. I just saw that you were carrying too many things, so I gave you a space ring to store items. Where do you think of it? Besides, I'm only 16 years old, so how can I have other intentions against you? Ziqian's eyes became even colder, and she threw the spirit flesh in the silver dragon lion's body to Zhang Ruokan, stretched out a hand, and said, bring that space treasure to me to see. Zhang Ruokan took the spirit flesh and handed the space ring to Ziqian's hand. How do I use it? Zixi asked. Zhang Ruokan said, just inject the true qi into the ring. Ziqian injected her true qi into the space ring, and a faint layer of white light immediately appeared on the surface of the space ring. Put her hand into the space ring and found that the inner space in the space ring was only the size of a small house, and it was not like those space treasures in the legend, which could hold the mountains and take away the heavens and the earth. However, it is completely sufficient to use a space ring to store your belongings. Ziqian naturally liked this space ring very much, and was reluctant to return it to Zhang Ruokan. Her beautiful eyes glared at Zhang Ruokan and said, "You gave me the space ring, what did you do?" "Of course, I have other spatial treasures." With a faint smile on his face, Zhang Ruokan took out all the items in the space ring and put them into the inner space of the space crystal. She took the space ring again, put the items on her body one by one, and soon, she became handed, and there was only a phoenix jade ring left in her jade hand. "It's a space treasure, it's amazing." Ziqian pinched the space ring, and the more she looked at it, the more she looked like. Then, she took out 30 spirit crystals from the space ring, handed them to Zhang Ruokan, and said, "I don't want your space ring for nothing, 30 spirit crystals for you." Zhang Ruokan shook his head and said, "If you want to sell it, that space ring will have to be sold for at least 200 spirit crystals." Ziqian's eyes were cold. She looked at the space ring in her hand, and said, "If you want to sell 200 spirit crystals, I don't want this space ring." Zhang Ruokan said with a smile, "If it is sold to you, it will naturally be 200 spirit crystals. But I'm giving it away for free, so I don't want a single silver coin." Ziqi clenched her crystal teeth and said, "Okay. I'll take it. Why did you give me something so valuable?" Zhang Ruokan continued to walk forward and said lightly, "Surrender." Ziqian said, "Aren't you afraid that I will kill you and snatch all the other treasures on your body?" Zhang Ruokan glanced at her and said, "After all, there are only a few people who will take revenge, and there are still more good people in this world. After all, I don't believe that I was so unlucky and met by me." "What are you doing?" Ziqian's sword, I don't know when it was already unsheathed, pointed at Zhang Ruokan's neck. All she needed was a slight stroke of the way, and Zhang Ruokan's head would fly out. He secretly injected his true qi into his soul vein, releasing the martial soul, and forming a spatial realm within a radius of 10 meters. Long as Ziqian dared to move, Zhang Ruokan would be able to go out faster and kill her. Ziqian didn't notice the spatial realm. With a little struggle in her eyes, she stared at Zhang Ruokan deeply, put the sword back, and said, "I just want to tell you, Your Royal Highness the Ninth Prince, you are too naive. People's hearts are sinister, and the heart of defense is indispensable. Have you always been cultivating in the palace and have never gone out to practice?" Ziqian withdrew her sword, and Zhang Ruokan also dispersed the space realm, and said lightly, "That's right." Ziqian was very speechless, too lazy to pay attention to Zhang Ruokan, and said, "Let's continue to hunt the warriors of the Quartet County." Zhang Ruokan stared at Ziqian's back, touched her chin with her fingers, and showed a hint of a smile. Her sword technique is exactly the same as that of Chen Libing, the killer of the Defu Gate, and only a professional killer can train her sense of hearing and smell to the same level as hers. It seems that my guess was correct, and she is indeed the killer of the Defu Gate. Zhang Ruokan is a person who has already died once. How can he still be as naive as before? From the time Ziqian deliberately approached him, he had already begun to be vigilant, but he was not sure that Ziqi was the killer of the Defu Gate. After continuous testing, Zhang Ruokan was finally able to determine Ziqian's identity. Even if she is the killer of Defuman, Zhang Ruokan is not afraid at all, and she thinks it is a kind of experience for herself. "Purple girl, wait a minute, what are you doing so fast?" Zhang Ruokan immediately chased after him. The first round of exams lasted 3 days. Before dark on the first day, Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian met 2 more warriors from the Quartet County. As a result, it was obvious that the 2 warriors all died under Ziqian's sword. The beast's eyes, crystals, and silver coins were taken away by Ziqian. Weapons of the two warriors and the pills on their bodies all belonged to Zhang Ruokan. It's night, and I can finally get some rest, Zhang Ruokan said. Ziqian glanced at Zhang Ruokan and said, after nightfall, most martial artists have the same idea as you, looking for a safe place and preparing to rest. So, this is the best time for us to hunt them. Tonight, we need to kill at least 20 warriors from the Four Directions Commandery to complete our mission. Where's the mission? Zhang Ruokan said. Ziqian said, we have given ourselves the task of ourselves. The Sifang County not only robbed the mines of Yunwu County, but also took away 7 cities of Yunwu County, and many soldiers and people died tragically. Don't you want to avenge them? Prince Huo Xing, if you want to kill you, don't you want to kill him? Don't you want to teach the quartet a hard lesson? Zhang Ruokan was speechless. After a while, Zhang Ruokan said, let's fight. Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian quickly shuttled through the dangerous dense forest, looking for the traces of the warriors of the Quartet County. In the night, there are often screams. You are who? Ah, I am the son of the great General Wei Wu of the Sifang County. You, poof. Quote dot. Dot 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 dot. The warriors of the Sifang County were still planning to snipe the warriors of the Yunwu County, wanting to teach the warriors of the Yunwu County a painful lesson. However, they were first killed by 2 mysterious men. Overnight, it was bloody. Ziqian's tracking secret skills and sense of smell are very powerful. No matter how secretive the warriors of the Sifang County are, they will eventually be found by her. By midnight, Ziqian had already killed 8 warriors, and even the purple clothes on her body were dyed red and turned into bloody clothes. Zhang Ruokan is not averse to killing, but he himself will not kill easily. Even if he wants to kill, he is also the person he thinks. 8 people have been killed, and there are still 12 left. She carried a bloody sword, planning to continue to hunt and kill the warriors of the quartet. Danger. Zhang Ruokan grabbed Ziqian's fragrant shoulder and dragged her back 3 meters away. Phew! A purple thunderbolt flew through the void and slammed into a 1,000-pound boulder not far away. With a bang, the boulder was torn apart. If Zhang Ruokan hadn't made a move to drag her away, the arrow just now would have pierced her head. Ziqian's vest broke out in a cold sweat, and she glanced at Zhang Ruokan with grateful eyes, and then looked in the direction where the thunder arrow flew out just now, and said, such a powerful archery, I was almost shot to death. Among the young warriors of the Sifang County, there is only one person who has such an archery technique. Feng family, Feng Ziyi. The Feng family is one of the 8 seventh-rate families in the Sifang County, and is famous for the 9 counties in Lingxi, which can be called the family of the archery. Feng Ziyi is one of the top archery geniuses in the Feng family, only 24 years old, and has reached the small pole of the Xuanji realm. Moreover, cultivate the archery path to the freehand level. Must know that among the young martial artists of the Sifang realm, only 3 of them cultivated to the small pole of the Xuanji realm. In the darkness, a man's voice came and said, I am worthy of being the number 1 master of the younger generation of Yunwu County, and I actually know that it is me. However, what surprised me even more was His Royal Highness the 9th Prince, who was very curious, how did you notice that I was hiding in the shadows? Feng Ziyi was naturally very surprised, because, in the same realm, almost no one could avoid his mortal arrow. What's more, the arrow just now was still a sneak attack. Zhang Ruokan naturally wouldn't tell him that he had strong spiritual power. Zhang Ruokan released the space domain and shrouded a radius of 10 meters in the space domain to prevent Feng Ziyi from shooting thunder arrows again. He said, your arrows are so bad that you can't shoot us. You're the first person to dare to laugh at our Feng family's poor archery skills. Don't you know that in the Battle of Mohe 2 years ago, my grandfather used the Junlu bow and the open tablet arrow to shoot and wound your father, King Yunwu County? Ha ha. Feng Ziyi laughed and said, it's a pity that the arrow was a little off, otherwise, it would have taken the life of the king of Yunwu County. Zhang Ruokan's eyes sank, and he said, "You seem to have a sense of accomplishment." Feng Ziyi smiled. "That's natural, because my grandfather shot and injured the king of Yunwu County, and the king rewarded our Feng family with a city and 80,000 slaves. You must know that that city was once the city of Yunwu County. Those 80,000 slaves were once the people of Yunwu County. As long as the Sifang County destroys the Yunwu County, our Feng family will get more rewards, and at that time, even you will only be a slave of our Feng family. If I tell you to learn how to bark a dog, you will not dare to learn to bark. Are you trying to provoke me, and then look? Ha ha. What about irritating you? Can you kill me?" Feng Ziyi said with a smile. Zhang Ruokan said, "Since that's the case, then I'll kill someone today and give it a try." Zhang Ruokan took out the soul-flashing sword, pinched it in his hand, and rushed into the dark jungle at an extremely fast speed. Feng Ziyi naturally didn't expect Zhang Ruokan's speed to be so fast, and he was slightly startled, and immediately bent his bow and shot 3 arrows in a row. The Feng family's human-level martial arts, 3 splits and cloud-breaking arrows. The 3 thunderbolts, like 3 purple streamers, flew out quickly. Bang! Boom! Bang! Zhang Ruokan swung 3 swords in a row, 3 sword shadows appeared in the air, and all 3 startling arrows were picked out. How is that possible? Feng Ziyi was full of confidence in his archery skills, and at such a close distance, shooting 3 arrows in a row, even if it was a martial artist in the extreme of the Xuanji realm, it was impossible to dodge them all. However, Zhang Ruokan not only did not dodge, but instead picked all 3 arrows. Even Ziqian, who caught up, was shocked by the scene just now. Even she didn't dare to guarantee that within 20 meters, all the 3 arrows of Feng Ziyi would be blocked. They naturally didn't know that Zhang Ruokan had a space domain, and when Feng Ziyi's 3 arrows entered within 10 meters of Zhang Ruokan could easily see the flight trajectory of the 3 arrows. It is naturally not difficult to pick up the 3 thunder arrows. After Zhang Ruokan picked up the 3 arrows, he didn't stop for a moment and continued to rush over. In an instant, Zhang Ruokan had already rushed to the front of Feng Ziyi. His arms were straight, and a sword stabbed out. The sword walked with a high-level sword intent, bursting out. Zhang Ruokan was simply like a sword god possessed, and a half-zhang tall sword appeared above the blade. Feng Ziyi no longer had a chance to shoot thunder arrows, so he used his bow as a weapon and slashed towards Zhang Ruokan. You know, he is a martial artist in the small pole of the Xuanji realm. How can he be afraid of a martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm? Bang! Exchanged, and the two retreated. At the Feng Ziyi looked at the scratched wrist, his face changed slightly, and said, "Such a powerful swordsmanship, if it is replaced by a martial artist in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, it is estimated that your arm has been cut off. Your Feng family has obtained a city in our Yunwu County country, and I will send one of the geniuses of the Feng family to hell first." Zhang Ruokan said. Feng Ziyi laughed sneeringly. "Even the king of Yunwu County was almost shot by my grandfather, what are you? It was just my carelessness, and now, the battle has just begun." As soon as the word, "beginning," fell, a thin silver needle spit out from Feng Ziyi's mouth. The silver needle, unexpectedly, flew towards Zhang Ruokan's heart. Once pierced through the heart, death is assured. Who would have thought that Feng Ziyi still had a needle hidden in his mouth? If he were to be replaced by another martial artist, even if he was a martial artist in the extreme realm, it was estimated that he would be plotted to death. But he happened to meet Zhang Ruokan, and when the silver needle flew within 10 meters of Zhang Ruokan had already sensed the danger and immediately swung his sword to block it. The silver needle flew out upside down and flew dangerously past the side of Feng Ziyi's neck, leaving a shallow blood mark. Feng Ziyi touched the bloody mouth on the side of his neck, and was even more surprised. "You actually blocked my tongue arrow." The so-called tongue arrow refers to using the tongue to shoot the arrow hidden in the mouth to achieve a surprise effect. When you speak, you can kill people. The bullet arrow is the secret skill of the Feng family, which can be called an example, and it can often kill a martial artist who has cultivated to a higher level than himself. You can also take my sword and try it. Heavenly Heart Broken Plum. Zhang Ruokan stepped on his steps and stabbed out with a sword. The brilliant sword light, divided into 7, was like a plum blossom blooming in the void. Feng Ziyi retreated again and again, but no matter how he retreated, the 7 sword rays followed him like a shadow, getting closer and closer to him. Feng Ziyi finally became flustered, his eyes widened, and he said, "Spirit-level sword technique." Your 7 sword chi pierced Feng Ziyi's eyebrows at the same time, passed through his head, and flew out from the back of Feng Ziyi's head. In the center of Feng Ziyi's eyebrows, a tiny blood-red plum blossom appeared. 7 drops of blood spilled from the center of the eyebrows, like the stamen of a plum blossom and 6 petals. Zhang Ruokan withdrew the soul-flashing sword into its scabbard, walked over, and used the scabbard to put it on Feng Ziyi's chest. Bang! Feng Ziyi's body fell straight down. Ziqian stood not far away, staring at Zhang Ruokan's back, letting out a long breath from her mouth, and only after a long time did she say, "I thought you wouldn't kill." Zhang Ruokan said, "If I don't kill him, he will kill me, what can I do? Besides, you heard it before, that he himself is looking for death, do you blame me?" Ziqian said, "You are only in the early stage of the Xuanji realm, you can kill the martial artists of the Xuanji realm in the small extreme, with your talent, if you are not killed, you will definitely be able to become a Xuanbang martial artist." Zhang Ruokan said, "The main reason is that Feng Ziyi is a master of archery, suitable for long-distance combat, not for close-range combat. In close combat, his strength is equivalent to that of a martial artist in the late stage of the Xuanji realm." Ziqian also nodded. If she fought Feng Ziyi at close range, she was sure that she would kill Feng Ziyi within 3 moves. Feng Ziyi is the top genius of the Feng family, and it takes a lot of resources to cultivate, and the Feng family has high hopes for him. If he dies in the middle of the exam in the Martial City Academy, those old men of the Feng family will definitely be furious. Ziqian said. Zhang Ruokan squatted down and searched for a box from Feng Ziyi's body. The box contained 8 beast eyes, which were equivalent to 4 second-order inferior brute beasts. Only need to collect 10 beast eyes to pass the first round of exams, and now I only have. Zhang Ruokan smiled slightly, and did not have psychological resistance because of the first. Zhang Ruokan's psychological quality is stronger than that of many martial artists in the heavenly extreme realm. Subsequently, Zhang Ruokan searched for 32 spirit crystals and a 2-star VIP card from Feng Ziyi's body. Must save at least 100,000 silver coins in Wuxi Chenjuang to have a 2-star VIP card. It's worthy of being a genius of a 6th-rate family, it's really rich. Even if Zhang Ruokan gets a 2-star VIP card, it is useless, because, to use a 2-star VIP card, you must drop a drop of your own blood on the card to unlock the special prohibition on the card. Only when the ban is lifted can silver coins be lifted in Wuxi Chenjuang. Even if Zhang Ruokan collects some of Feng Ziyi's blood now, it is useless. After all, Feng Ziyi is dead, and the blood will soon become inactive. Once the blood is inactive, the ban on the card is lifted. Ziqian saw the 2-star VIP card in Zhang Ruokan's hand and said, "With the blood of Feng Ziyi's direct blood relatives, you can also unlock the ban on VIP cards. As far as I know, one of Feng Ziyi's biological brothers is cultivating in the outer palace of the Martial City Academy Palace, and he is also a genius powerhouse. In that case, let's put it away first." Zhang Ruokan put away the 2-star VIP card. 100,000 silver coins is also a lot of wealth for him. There are deep grievances between the Yunwu County and the Sifang County, and the warriors of the two countries naturally hate each other and are hostile to each other. When Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian were sniping the warriors of the Sifang Zhongguo, the warriors of the Sifang Zhongguo were also hunting the warriors of the Yunwu Zhongguo. Even other counties are involved. In the early morning of the next day, Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian found the body of a woman in a small stream. The woman was naked, bruised, and bloodied between her legs. Obviously, while she was alive, she was subjected to inhuman abuse, humiliation. The fatal wound on her body, at the position of her neck, a small cut in the neck artery, blood kept gushing out of her body, staining the stream red. The smell of blood was in the air. What a brutal method of killing. Zhang Ruokan frowned tightly, and a nameless anger arose in his heart. He walked into the creek and carried the woman's body to the shore. For this woman, he has some images. She is a noble daughter of Yunwu County, who has reached the middle stage of the Xuanji realm in cultivation, has excellent talent, and has a great chance of being admitted to the Wuxi Academy. Ziqian had long been accustomed to killing, and said, looking at this killing method, it should be the genius of the Sifang County Guoqing family, and besides, there is indeed a residual breath of him here. Zhang Ruokan didn't know about those young warriors in the Sifang County, so he asked, who are you talking about? Qingyu. He can be regarded as the most outstanding Tianzhou of the Qing family in the past 100 years, reaching the great perfection of the Yellow Pole realm at the age of 15, becoming a Yellow List martial artist at the age of 16, and breaking through to the Xuanji realm at the age of 17. Now, he is only 21 years old, and he has already reached the Zan Extreme Realm small pole level. Ziqian said again, it is said that he has cultivated an evil skill that can absorb the true qi on a woman's body, which is why his cultivation speed is so fast. Zhang Ruokan closed the woman's eyes, buried the body beside the stream, and said, among the young martial artists of the Sifang County, there are only 3 martial artists in the Xuanji realm who are at the small pole level, but I didn't expect to meet another one so soon. Ziqian said, you want to kill him? Zhang Ruokan said, don't you want to deal with? Ziqian continued, although Feng Ziyi is a genius, he is too much worse than Qingyu. Qingyu's cultivation has reached the pinnacle of the small pole position of the Xuanji realm, and even the martial artists of the extreme position in the Xuanji realm are not his opponents. Feng Ziyi has just broken through the small pole of the Xuanji realm, but Qingyu is the pinnacle of the small pole of the Xuanji realm, and the gap between the two is not ordinarily large. Was solemn, he looked around, and said, danger. As Ziqian's ears moved, her face changed, and she immediately drew her sword and took on a defensive posture, staring towards the lush forest, and said, we have been ambushed. Alert, I didn't expect you to notice it so quickly. A hearty wow. Prince Huo Xing flew out of the dense forest on a second-order inferior beast, Qinglan Eagle, and hovered above the heads of Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian. He stood on the back of Qinglan Eagle, stood tall, stared at the 2 people below proudly, and said, you are really powerful. There are at least 15 warriors of the Sifang County who died in your hands last night, right? Zhang Ruokan glanced up slightly and said, how did you track us? Dada. Footsteps rang out. In the woods, a man with a cold face, dressed in a crimson robe, holding a 1-foot-long curved hook blade in his hand, sneered, as long as you find the first person you killed, will it be difficult to catch up with you? Ha ha. Qian stared at the man in the red robe, her eyes sank, and she was blue. The corners of Qingyu's mouth hooked slightly, his eyes glanced at Ziqian's round chest and buttocks, and finally stared at her beautiful face, and smiled evilly. It's really a superlative, and the cultivation is not low. If I can absorb the true qi in your body, maybe I can break through to the middle pole in one fell swoop. Ziqian's eyes were cold, and she said in a cold voice, since you have set up an ambush, let's all come out. Phew. In the jungle, a series of wind-breaking sounds sounded. Instantly, 7 more figures flew out. Among them, 3 were cultivators in the middle stage of the Xuanji realm, and 4 were cultivators in the early stage of the Xuanji realm. The 7 young warriors stood up in 7 different positions and blocked all the retreats of Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian. Prince Huo Xing stood on Qinglan Eagle's back and said with a smile, why don't you crush the Qilin ball? Do you think you still have a chance? Zhang Ruokan immediately released the space realm, his eyes swept over the 9 people present, and his heart sank slightly. Just a Qingyu's combat power is above Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian, and it is already difficult to defeat him. What's more, there is also a Prince Huo Xing whose combat power is not much weaker than Qingyu, and he flies into the sky, and he may attack at any time, killing Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian by surprise. In addition, there were 7 Xuanji realm martial artists, who blocked all the retreats of Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian. In this way, they don't even have a chance to escape. Prince Huo Xing smiled. Even if you break the Qilin ball and raise the Qilin smoke, it is useless, and no one will come to save you at all. The outer palace disciple guarding this area is a young Tianzhao from our Sifang county, and this prince has already greeted him. Even if he sees Qilin Yan, he will not rush over to save you. Zhang Ruokan said. Prince Huo Xing's work is really leaky, wouldn't we be certain to die today? Qingyu's eyes were evil, he shook his head, and said with a smile, no. His Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you will definitely die. As for that purple-clothed beauty, she is so beautiful, of course you can't kill her easily. Ha ha. A martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm next to him also showed a lewd, easy smile and said, Qingxiao, when you absorb the true qi in her body, you can hand it over to our brother and have fun. Look for death. Ziqian turned into a purple afterimage, rushed out at a speed of 40 meters per second, and stabbed a sword at the martial artist in the middle of the Zan extreme realm. You must know that the average martial artist of the small pole position of the Xuanji realm can only reach a speed of 36 meters per second. Only the extreme martial artists in the Xuanji realm can burst out at a speed of 40 meters per second. It can be said that Ziqian was really angry, and burst out as fast as she could, wanting to kill that person first within one move. Qingyu snorted coldly, and his speed was even faster, reaching 44 meters per second, and his speed was comparable to that of a martial artist in the Great Pole of the Zan extreme realm. He appeared like a ghost in front of Zixi. A cyan palm covered with cyan scales, like the claws of a. Bang! Qingyu's claws were as hard as iron, and they collided with Zixi's sword, scattering a large area of sparks. Bang! Qingyu's 5 fingers were closed, and he actually pinched Ziqian's sword with his bare. Ziqian's face changed, and she immediately wanted to put away her sword and retreat. But Qingyu's 5 fingers were like iron pincers, pinching the blade of the sword tightly. No matter how hard Ziqian tried, he couldn't shake his claws. Blue Devil Hand. Ziqian said. Qingyu smiled. That's right. It is the spirit-level low-grade martial art Blue Demon Hand, and this son has cultivated to a small level, and he is invulnerable, and the fire is not melted. Ziqian immediately abandoned her sword and pulled back. Qingyu's speed was faster, and his palm reached out, grabbing at her neck. In the air, 5 cyan hand shadows appeared, attacking Zixi's neck at the same time. A poisonous wind emanated from Qingyu's hands and claws, emitting a faint smell of blood. Ziqian's delicate body dodged Qingyu's claws. She propped her hands on the ground, and a pair of slender jade legs kicked out, kicking Qingyu's chest. Bang! Qingyu took Ziqian's kick hard, and her body took 3 steps back, but instead of being injured, she let out a wild laugh, stretched out her tongue and licked her lips, and said, "It's kind of interesting." Ziqian immediately grabbed the battle sword on the ground, activated the true qi in her body, and stimulated the 8 inscriptions in the battle sword. On the surface of the sword body of that battle sword, a layer of cyan brilliance appeared, exuding a cold and piercing aura. Blizzard. Ziqian's arm kept turning, and the sword drew circles in the air, forming a whistling wind. As the cold qi in the sword body continued to escape, grains of white frost appeared in the air. The frost continued to grow and turned into white snowflakes. Spirit-level swordsmanship. Qingyu's eyes became extremely fierce, and he let out a long roar, Blue Devil Hand, into a cyan shadow and rushed straight into Ziqian's sword. With a bang, the cyan ghost hand slammed into the tip of the battle sword, and a wave of cyan qi erupted. Ziqian's mouth let out a muffled sound, the tiger's mouth cracked, and the sword in her hand was shocked out and fell into the stream. Bang! Qingyu slapped Ziqian's right shoulder with a palm, knocking Ziqian more than 10 meters away. She flew in the air, a mouthful of blood spitting out of her mouth, Her face turned very pale, and she suffered severe internal injuries. Ha ha! And rushed forward again, grabbing Zixie's ankle to grab her. At this moment, Zhang Ruokan flashed out from behind Ziqian, holding the soul-flashing sword, and stabbed at Qingyu's eyebrows with a sword. Heavenly heart-broken plum. Qingyu sensed the danger and immediately let go of Ziqian's ankles. A contemptuous smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he reached out to block the sword in Zhang Ruokan's hand. Suddenly, the sword move in Zhang Ruokan's hand changed from stabbing to slashing, and shouted, "Tianxin points the way." A 10-meter-long sword qi flew out of the blade of the sword and slashed in front of Qingyu in an instant. Qingyu's eyes shrank slightly, and he immediately stretched out his hands and transferred all his true qi to his palms. A ball of cyan true qi light condensed between the palms. The green devil cries. He knocked out the ball of true qi light in his hands, forming a cyan ghost mist in front of him, colliding with that sword qi. Zhang Ruokan felt the powerful energy rushing towards him, and immediately blocked it with his sword, but he was still shocked out by the powerful force and fell 7 meters away. Qingyu was hit by the sword qi, leaving a shallow bloody mouth on his palm. That sword qi broke the cyan scales on his palm. The smooth blood, also cyan, is highly poisonous. Haha. His Royal Highness the Ninth Prince is really hidden, and he was able to break through the blue devil hand of this sun. Interesting, really interesting. Qingyu operated the true qi in his body, and wisps of air gushed out from his pores, turning into cyan light, enveloping his arms. The cyan light surged towards his palms. A moment later, the wound that was cut open by Zhang Ruokan healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. What a self-healing ability! Zhang Ruokan was wary of Qingyu, and at the same time, his gaze was staring at Ziqian again, and said, "Can you still hold on?" Ziqian's face was pale, and there were blood stains on the corners of her mouth, the most serious of which was the injury on her right shoulder. Qingyu's palm was highly poisonous, corroding Ziqian's clothes into the shape of a palm print, and the skin exposed under the clothes turned blue and purple. "I'm fine." Ziqian gritted her teeth, with a little coldness in her eyes, and said, "Let's join forces and kill it. I'll contain Qingyu, and you can kill the other 7 warriors. I can only resist Qingyu's 10 moves at most, so you have to kill those 7 people before this, and then we will join forces to deal with Qingyu, only then will we have a chance to escape." Zhang Ruokan watched Ziqian's face become more and more pale, and said, "It's better for me to contain Qingyu, and you go and kill those 7 people. No, Qingyu won't kill me, so I can take 10 moves from him. However, Qingyu will kill you, let alone 10 moves, within 5 moves, you will die in his hands." Ziqian said, "Not necessarily." Zhang Ruokan smiled faintly at Ziqian, holding the soul-flashing sword in one hand and taking out a black spear from the space-time crystal with the other. This black spear was taken from the hands of a warrior of the Sifeng Commandery, and it was a 4th-order true martial weapon. Stepping on the pace, Zhang Ruokan rushed towards Qingyu at the fastest speed. At the same time, Ziqian also immediately made a move, stepped out, crossed the stream, and pointed at the throat of a martial artist in the early stage of the Zon Extreme realm. The warrior's throat shattered, blood spat out of his mouth, and he immediately collapsed into the stream. In an instant, Ziqian attacked another martial artist. Qingyu stood on top of a 2-meter-high boulder, staring at Zhang Ruokan, who rushed over, with an excited smile on his face, and said, "It's a good time. Just kill you first, and then slowly ravage that big beauty. Then it's up to you to see if you have the ability." Zhang Ruokan said. Qingyu stared at Zhang Ruokan and said sarcastically, "With a sword in one hand and a gun in the other, do you think you can use 2 things? If you can't do it at once, using 2 weapons will make your combat power even lower. You'll know if you try it." Zhang Ruokan said. Just now, Ziqian had already killed 2 people in a row and attacked the 3rd person. Qingyu no longer talked nonsense with Zhang Ruokan, jumped down from the boulder, carried enough true qi, and slapped his palm on the boulder. A boulder with tens of thousands of catties flew out and hit Zhang Ruokan. You can't retreat, you have to hold on to Qingyu. Zhang Ruokan's eyes sank, and he mobilized the true qi in his body to activate all the four force system inscriptions in the Flash Soul Sword. The weight of the Flash Soul Sword reached 453 catties. Bang! A sword is slashed out. The 10,000-pound boulder cracked through it and flew in two directions, left and right. Ha ha! Qingyu flew out from behind the boulder, with a fierce smile on his face, and slapped his palm on the top of Zhang Ruokan's head. You must know that Zhang Ruokan has expanded the space domain, so he naturally knows that Qingyu is following behind the boulder. Before Qingyu's palm was punched, Zhang Ruokan stabbed the spear out and hit Qingyu's chest. Qingyu didn't expect Zhang Ruokan's reaction speed to be so fast, so he had to withdraw his palm, slap his backhand, and hit the spear. Bang! Qingyu's strength was so strong that he knocked the spear out of direction with one palm. Then, Qingyu's body suddenly turned, and like a poisonous snake with a spear, it swam towards Zhang Ruokan. He stretched out two fingers and pointed them at Zhang Ruokan's throat. The fingertips of the fingers emitted two cyan sparks. You must know that Qingyu's speed reaches 44 meters per second, but Zhang Ruokan's speed is only 34 meters per second. In Qingyu's opinion, his fingers must be able to crush Zhang Ruokan's throat. But at this moment, Zhang Ruokan stabbed out with a sword, from the bottom up, and stabbed Qingyu's throat instead. If Qingyu wanted to smash Zhang Ruokan's throat, his own throat would definitely be stabbed by the sword. The end result is the same end. Qingyu frowned slightly, and was forced to withdraw by Zhang Ruokan again. How is it possible? You're far inferior in speed and strength to me, but you're able to break my killer moves one after another. Could it be that you can really do two things, and you can control both a sword and a gun at the same time? Zhang Ruokan held a sword in one hand and a gun in the other, and said, I told you a long time ago that it is not easy for you to kill me. Zhang Ruokan's speed is indeed far inferior to Qingyu, but he has a space domain. Once Qingyu entered within 10 meters of him, Zhang Ruokan would be able to see all of Qingyu's moves clearly, and he could take the first step to block Qingyu's killing moves. At this moment, Ziqian had already killed 3 people. Then it's up to you to block a few moves. Qingyu was furious, his arms turned blue-black, and he displayed a human-level high-grade body martial art, turning into 3 cyan shadows, and attacked Zhang Ruokan at the same time. Ordinary martial artists can't tell which shadow is Qingyu's true body. When the 3 shadows entered within 10 meters of Zhang Ruokan finally saw clearly that the 3 shadows were all real bodies, but Qingyu's speed was too fast, and he was stepping on a strange step, so it would make people think that he had become 3 people. Bang! Ruokan slashed out with a sword, blocking the first figure. Another shot was stabbed to block the second figure. When the third figure rushed up, Zhang Ruokan's spear and sword blocked at the same time, and it was another move that ended up together, forcing Qingyu back again. Looking from a distance, I only saw Zhang Ruokan standing in place, constantly swinging his sword and stabbing out his spear, fighting with the 3 Qingyu at the same time. Then 20 moves in a row, Qingyu couldn't defeat Zhang. Prince Huo Xing stood on the back of Qinglan Eagle, looked at the battlefield below, and said with some disappointment, it seems that I still have to make a move. Prince Huo Xing lifted the silver bone string moon bow and took out a golden broken car arrow. His whole body was surging with true qi, and he immediately pulled the 300-pound silver bone string moon bow into a full moon, making a gurgling sound. On the battlefield, using a broken cart arrow, you can destroy a chariot driven by 30 people with one arrow. Prince Huo Xing stared at Zhang Ruokan, who was fighting with Qingyu. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, pointed the arrow at Zhang Ruokan's vest, and said, "Ninth Prince, farewell." As soon as the finger loosened, the broken car arrow flew out. Phew! The arrow, burning, like a flaming meteorite, rushed towards the earth. Qingyu saw the broken car arrow falling from the sky, his face showed a trace of displeasure, and a cold cry came out of his mouth, "Nosy." He wanted to kill Zhang Ruokan with his own hands, not be killed by Prince Huo Xing. Since Prince Huo Xing made a move, Zhang Ruokan would definitely die. Qing Yu's toes kicked on the ground, turned into a cyan shadow, flew out upside down, and retreated far away. Zhang Ruokan naturally noticed the broken car arrows flying from the sky, and the hairs on his whole body stood up like hedgehogs. His spine was cold, and his scalp was numb, as if the sky had fallen. Ice and Fire Kirin. Zhang Ruokan's true qi surged in the 36 meridians all over his body, all of which surged towards the Ice and Fire Qilin armor on his body, and almost instantly, the 10 inscriptions in the Qilin Ice and Fire armor were activated. The Qilin Ice and Fire armor is a 6th order true martial weapon, and there are a total of 38 inscriptions engraved in the armor. With Zhang Ruokan's current martial arts cultivation, he can only activate 10 inscriptions at most. Wow! The Qilin Ice and Fire armor on Zhang Ruokan's body erupted with 2 kinds of light, crimson and blue, exuding 2 powers, cold and hot. In the middle of the armor, a violent unicorn cry was heard, and a 7-meter-high unicorn phantom appeared, guarding Zhang Ruokan in the belly of the unicorn phantom. Boom! Hitting the Qilin phantom, the impact of the broken car arrow was obviously weakened by a few points, and the speed slowed down. When the broken car arrow hit Zhang Ruokan's back, 90% of the strength was cancelled out, and only 1% of the strength remained. With this strength, it was still very terrifying, and Zhang Ruokan was thrown out, crashing into a tree with a diameter of 1 meter not far away, and a mouthful of blood spit out from his mouth. Fortunately, the broken car arrow was blocked by the Ice and Fire Qilin armor, otherwise, Zhang Ruokan's body would definitely be pierced by the arrow. Such a powerful car-breaking arrow, more than 10 times more powerful than the thunder arrow. Zhang Ruokan supported his body with a sword and a gun, and spit out a mouthful of blood foam in his mouth again. Prince Huo Xing stood on the back of the Qinglin eagle, holding the silver bone string moon bow, and let out a soft sigh from his mouth. Ice and Fire Qilin armor. I didn't expect you to be wearing this treasure, it's great. Qingyu, kill him and take the Ice and Fire Qilin armor from him. Qingyu let out a sneer, walked towards Zhang Ruokan step by step, and said, even the broken car arrow can't kill you, it seems that I still have to take action myself. Zhang Ruokan glanced at Ziqian in the distance. There were already 5 warriors from the Quartet County who had died in her hands. As long as she dragged out of Qingyu for a few more moments, she would be able to kill all 7 of them. This prince will go first, and then he will be indefinite. Zhang Ruokan turned around and fled, like a vigorous spirit monkey, rushing into the forest in an instant. Escaping into the dense forest can not only delay time, but also avoid Prince Huo Xing's sight to a certain extent, preventing Prince Huo Xing from shooting another broken car arrow. Want to escape? Dream on. At a speed of 44 meters per second, Qingyu chased after Zhang Ruokan and rushed into the dense forest. Zhang Ruokan's speed was only 34 meters per second, and he was at a disadvantage in speed, and after only a few seconds, he was chased by Qingyu, and the two fought again. Qingyu took out a 1-foot-long hook-shaped blade from the leather pouch at his waist, much like a snowy scythe. His 5 fingers turned, and the scythe swirled in the air, forming dozens of knife shadows, making a whoosh sound. The clothes on Zhang Ruokan's chest were cut by a sharp sickle, but fortunately, he was wearing an Ice and Fire unicorn armor to block the sickle, otherwise, Zhang Ruokan's chest would definitely have an extra bloody wound. Whoa! Your Royal Highness the 9th Prince, you can go and die. Qingyu's speed was as fast as a ghost, with a cruel smile in his eyes, and with a wave of his arm, the cold scythe slashed towards Zhang Ruokan's neck. At the critical moment, all the true qi in Zhang Ruokan's body poured into the soul vein to communicate with the martial soul. The space in front of Zhang Ruokan was slightly distorted. Seeing that Qingyu's sickle was about to cut Zhang Ruokan's neck, but because of the distortion of space, the traces of the sickle changed, and it slashed in front of Zhang Ruokan, without touching Zhang Ruokan's body. This is one of the forces in the space realm, called space warp. How is that possible? Qingyu was slightly stunned, feeling that he had just been dazzled, and Zhang Ruokan escaped from under the sickle. At the moment when Qingyu was stunned, Zhang Ruokan stabbed out with a sword and pierced Qingyu's left arm. Poof! Qingyu's mouth let out a muffled sound, gritted his teeth, and kicked Zhang Ruokan's chest, knocking Zhang Ruokan out. At the same time, Qingyu also quickly retreated. His left arm was painful and cracking, blood kept gushing out, and in an instant, half of his body was numb. Damn, you actually stabbed off the meridians of my left hand. Qingyu's eyes were full of anger, and he didn't expect that he would be injured at the hands of a martial artist in the early stage of the Zon Extreme realm. Even if his self-healing ability is very strong, it is impossible for him to connect the meridians of his left hand back in a short period of time. At this moment, Ziqian walked out of the jungle, carrying a bloody sword, and stood behind Qingyu. She had already killed all 7 warriors, and the purple clothes on her body were soaked with blood. The clothes were tightly attached to the body, outlining the round crisp peaks, the slender waist, the slender beauty legs, and the long black hair also became wet, overflowing with crimson blood. Is obviously a beautiful woman, but she is more like a messenger who seduces the soul, and her whole body exudes a murderous aura. Qingyu sneered and said, even if I only use one hand, it will be easy to kill you. Huo Xing's voice came, Qingyu, this prince will help. Prince Huo Xing took out a flute, injected true qi into the flute, and blew a melodious flute sound. As the flute sounded, there was a sound of rustling in the jungle, and one by one fist-sized poisonous bees flew out and flew towards Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian. A first-order medium brute beast, a phantom poisonous bee. In the venom of a phantom bee, the warrior will hallucinate. If you are hit by the venom of 3 phantom bees at the same time, the warrior's life will be in danger. Even a martial artist of the small pole position of the Xuanji realm, if he was hit by the venom of 5 phantom bees at the same time, he would be poisoned and killed within a quarter of an hour. Although the phantom poison bee was only a first-order mid-level brute beast, Prince Huo Xing had summoned a total of more than 100 phantom poison bees with the sound of the flute, not to mention the small pole of the Xuanji realm martial artists. Even martial artists in the Great Pole realm of the Zon Extreme realm have to flee for their lives. Run! Zhang Ruokan shouted to Ziqian. After saying this, Zhang Ruokan rushed out first, so as not to be besieged by phantom poisonous bees. Can you escape? Qingyu chased after Zhang Ruokan and Ziqian. He cultivated the Blue Devil hand, and he was originally highly poisonous physique, so he was naturally not afraid of phantom poisonous bees. Zhang Ruokan looked at Qingyu, who was catching up, and then at Prince Huo Xing, who was standing on the back of Qinglan Eagle, and said secretly in his heart, Prince Huo Xing is a beast master, only a cultivator in the late stage of the Xuanji realm, but the threat is greater than Qingyu. You must get rid of him first, otherwise, you will definitely die today. But he can control the Qinglan Eagle and fly in midair, how can he attack him? At this moment, a lazy voice sounded in Zhang Ruokan's eyebrows, and said, young man, if you agree to this emperor's condition, this emperor may be able to help you. It's Blackie's voice. Xiaohe was sealed in the Chenkin Divine Wood diagram, and the Chenkin Divine Wood diagram was suspended in the middle of the Qi Lake in the center of Zhang Ruokan's eyebrows. Zhang Ruokan said, what are the conditions? In the future, I can't seal this emperor back to the Chenkin Shenmu diagram. Little Underworld. Zhang Ruokan said, as long as you are honest in the future, I can agree to this condition for you. Good. That's it. Xiaohe said happily. Zhang Ruokan's Shenwu mark lit up, and a picture scroll flew out of the center of his eyebrows and fell into his hands. With a wave of his arm, a black giant cat flew out of the scroll and landed beside Zhang Ruokan, like a huge black furball lying on the ground. After lifting the seal, Xiaohe looked very excited and said, young man, this emperor will help you to deal with that guy flying in the sky. Zhang Ruokan said, can you attack him? Xiao Haibai glanced at Zhang Ruokan and said, "My title is the Emperor of Heaven and Earth. If you can't fly away, how can you slaughter the heavens and kill the earth?" Xiao Hei's body exuded a black brilliance, making a crackling sound, and his body swelled again, and his body became the size of a lion. Moreover, on its back, a pair of black wings actually grow. With a flap of black wings, Xiao Hei took off and rushed towards Prince Huo Xing, who was flying in midair. "You can transform." Zhang Ruokan was slightly startled, seeing a cat that could fly for the first time. Qing Yu, who was chasing behind, was also startled, staring at Zhang Ruokan, and secretly said in his heart, "Could it be that he is also a beast master?" At that moment, the phantom bee flew up. Smack! Zhang Ruokan swung out with a sword and split a phantom poisonous bee in half. More phantom bees poured in. Heavenly Heart Sword Bell. Zhang Ruokan used a spirit-level sword technique to form a 3-meter-high bell-shaped phantom, enveloping his body in the center. The big bell rotated, releasing dozens of sword chi. More than a dozen phantom poisonous bees were pierced through their bodies by the sword chi and fell to the ground. Blue Devil Hand. Qingyu chased after him, jumped over, crossed a distance of more than 10 meters, and slammed Zhang Ruokan's chest with one palm. Zhang Ruokan stabbed out a spear with one hand, and slashed out a war sword with the other, and at the same time blocked towards Qingyu. Bang! Qingyu's palm power was too strong, and the spear and sword in Zhang Ruokan's hand flew out. Zhang Ruokan took more than 10 steps back in a row before dissipating Qingyu's palm power, and a mouthful of blood spit out from his mouth again. Was already suffering a lot of injuries, and Zhang Ruokan naturally couldn't block Qingyu's full force. "There's no way, the gap in cultivation is still too big. If I can break through to the middle stage of the Xuanji realm, I won't be able to fight so hard at all." Zhang Ruokan wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth, and was not discouraged, but his fighting spirit became stronger. The blood is boiling. The true chi in Zhang Ruokan's body was running rapidly, and the blood in his whole body was boiling. The blood is boiling, the sign of a martial artist in the early stage of the Xuanji realm. Qingyu sneered and said, "Even if the blood chi is boiling, the early stage of the Xuanji realm is a weak person after all, and it is impossible to be the opponent of the martial artists of the Xuanji realm Shaoji realm. You breakthrough." Qingyu's face changed, and he saw wisps of blood mist gushing out of Zhang Ruokan's pores, turning into a ring-shaped blood rainbow, wrapping his body. Blood and chi are like rainbows, the symbol of a martial artist in the middle of the Xuanji realm.